What's up, UX fam? How's your mom and them? Welcome to another episode of Beyond UX Design. I'm Jeremy. If you're new here, welcome to the show. I am super stoked to have you. This week's episode is brought to you by Mento Design Academy, where it's not just about learning UX design, it's about discovering your unique path in it. Their approach is different. It's personal. It's tailored to you. They don't just teach, they inspire students to use their passions as a driving force in their learning, and that is something that I've experienced firsthand as a mentor. I've been fortunate enough to guide students who are exploring concepts that they're truly passionate about. It's not just about following a curriculum, it's about shaping that curriculum around what excites each student. And this approach emphasizes not just knowledge, but a deep love for the discipline. And seeing my mentees grow and apply their passions and craft portfolios that are genuinely them, it's been one of the most rewarding experiences of my career. So if you're looking for a UX course that's as unique as you are, check out Mento Design Academy. Head on over to beyonduxdesign.com/Mento. And just for my listeners, use the promo code BeyondUX200 to get $200 off the course. So join Mento and let your passions lead your learning journey. And if you haven't done it already, please consider subscribing to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. If you are a regular here and you feel like you're getting something out of the show, I would really appreciate you leaving a 5-star review. That'll help me out so much more than you can imagine. And as always, thanks so much to Chris, Siraquan, Stacy, Radu, Megan, Andrew, John, Mark, Kevin, and Jason for all their support. And if you want to join those fine folks and many others and help keep the show independent and ad-free, you'll get rough transcripts and exclusive access to the entire video library of episodes, including episodes before they're even released. And you can get instant access to the video archives for as little as $5 a month. For more information on how you can support the show and help more people find out about what we're doing here, make sure to check out beyonduxdesign.com/support. And of course, if you think the show is worth sharing, then I would love it if you told some friends. UX design is a pretty vast field. You can have any number of jobs within UX design, it seems like, and it can be hard for junior designers, career shifters, people just starting out in a field to know which path to choose. Where do I go? Do I do this or do I do that? It can all be pretty overwhelming. So that's why I've got Veronica Shelton on today, and we're going to talk all about that. Veronica is a co-founder and head of creative and technology at Oak Theory, a design studio specializing in UX, UI, web, and application design. And throughout her career, she's partnered with a wide variety of brands from startups to Fortune 500 companies, where her passion is to translate voices and stories into products and experiences that resonate in the most authentic way. Oak Theory works with boutique brands, startups, and giants like Google and the University of California, where they lead with skill, grit, innovation, and inclusivity at the forefront of everything they do. So Veronica, welcome to Beyond UX Design. I am so excited to have you on. How's it going?
Hey, wow, what an intro. Like, you got this locked.
A lot of practice.
It sounds so
A lot
good.
of practice. This is like,
Yeah.
I don't know, almost 100 episodes. So I've had a lot of practice. I feel sometimes
Nice.
like I should just like change it up a little bit so it doesn't sound like a
No, that's
robot.
perfect. Like,
Was it
I was
good?
sitting there like, interesting. Yeah, who's the sponsor? Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
no, that
hell
was
yeah.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. BeyondUXdesign.com/support. You want to final? All right. So Veronica, so you've got Oak Theory, and you've worked with a lot of really great brands. You've been in the industry a
Yeah.
long time, and I imagine you didn't start out with your own company. You probably kind of meandered through the various careers to get to where you are today. So I'm excited to chat with you about how junior designers, career shifters, all these folks can help, or you can help them kind of like think about their career and where they want to go, because if you're not UXing your own career, right, you're just kind of
There it is.
blindly following along, doing whatever you think you're supposed to do. You wake up
Yeah.
10, 15 years down the road and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Where the hell am I? What happened? So I'm excited to chat about that today. So before we do that, you've got an interesting little backstory. Tell us about you and how'd you get into where you are today?
I just, God just dropped me down. It was like, this is your calling. No. I've always been into creative work and design. I was one of those nerdy jocks growing up, I think, probably
A
since
nerdy jock,
high
okay.
school. A nerdy jock. Like, I'd be into, as a cheerleader and like swimming and all these things. And literally it was just supposed to be like this person who was so into sports, but I would skip all my shit just so I can go home and use my jailbroken version of Photoshop to create fun things. I think like creative work was always my calling. All the way, I'm gonna age myself. Do you remember
No.
MySpace?
Yeah.
And you remember
see
how
this
we
gray
said
in his
that?
beard? You see this gray in his beard?
I do. I see
Of course
all
I
of
remember
it. There's a lot
MySpace.
of
Yeah.
it. It's nice
man.
though. It's a nice
Thanks.
ombre. But there is a way you can make custom MySpace themes and things
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. And so those things used to excite me. And so that's where I
Mhm.
really got started, because I was like, wow, I can create my own experience. And the UX comes in all the way back then, when you would see how people would come to your page and add you just
Mhm.
because your page looked different than everyone else's. And so wanting to keep up an experience for people to come and like comment and add things. So yeah, starting all the way back then, but it's always been my calling. I took the hard route in my career, I'll say that. So I did go to college for business, something that I wasn't interested in at all. I dropped out of
Mm.
college 3 times in my
Really?
lifetime.
Wow.
Yeah, so I decided to take the hard route and go career first. So learn by doing, which benefited me deeply. And so, yeah, I worked a lot of jobs where it was just coming in. And I think in our path as creatives, I was into design and development. And I think with creative work, it's such a visual thing where if you can do it, you can do it. You know, if
Mhm.
you can be a creative, if you can design, if you can think strategically, those things are really easy to show. And so it was very easy for me to jump right into a job because they were like, you know what you're doing.
Mhm.
So that's my beginning. If that's helpful.
That's really cool. Yeah. So, what were your 3 different times going into college? You said you dropped out 3 times,
Yeah.
or did you drop out 2 times? You went back 3 times. I can't remember.
No, I dropped
What
out
were
3 times.
You dropped out 3 times. Did you ever actually finish?
No.
No
So
judgment here, by the way. Okay.
no judgment. I can't anymore. I feel like it was my way. It's actually funny because I went to school the first time. I went to Georgia Tech, and I
Mhm.
was like, I'm gonna go for computer science.
Oh, wow.
And I would skip my classes because there were design courses on campus, and I would sit in those instead of my classes.
Why didn't you
And
just sign up for the design degree?
spicy brain. It's either one or the other. So I was like,
I love
either.
that. That's so
So
funny.
I never even thought, oh, I could just, switch my major. I was like, no, I'm
Uh-huh.
just going to not do what I was supposed to do. And so my teachers were like, you're not interested in this. And I was like, you're right. And so I dropped out, and then I went to another college for business because I was like, I like business. Did the same thing. I'm not kidding you. I skipped my classes.
Design classes again?
And I would go into the design classes, and I would sit in the lab and like make digital clothing on Second Life.
Wow. Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. And so then after that, I literally tried again. I moved back home. My mom was like, get your ass home. We're wasting a lot of money. So I went home, and she was like, go to this local college. And I was like, okay, same thing.
Yeah. And
so,
at no point were you like, I should go for a UX degree or design degree. That's okay.
It never dawned on me because I was like, I know this already. I just like being in the classes because I like, I actually like being in the classes to show off sometimes because I'd be like, oh, I know this already. But
and they're like, you're not on the list. Who are you?
I know.
Security.
I truly blessed. I feel like I never got kicked out. Like I feel like a lot of these teachers and professors and all of them just would love to have me around, oddly enough. And I'm so grateful for them. I really am. Like when I think back on it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, so clearly you're doing something right because you seem to be rather successful today. So you've meandered all through the career options. I think you're a really great person to kind of help a lot of these folks out who are thinking about this.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about just UX design in general and the vast array of things that one could decide to do as a job in UX design, right? I think there's a lot of people just starting out that are having a really hard time even just like picking something to start. And I think, to your point, right, you tried a few things, it didn't work out. You tried a few things, it didn't work out. So I'm curious, like what happened like with you? Like, how did you ultimately decide on a design path? And how did you decide ultimately to go down one route versus another?
So I think with design, it's something that's a calling to us. We know when we're creative. And I hate to be the type of person who's saying like other people can't learn to be creative, but I do think there's a specific group of people where this is just your calling. Like you enjoy that side of things. You watch commercials differently than people. You look online when you see websites, you look at them differently than most people do. And you look at, I think, visual language differently. because you speak a different language, which is visual. And so I think I was one of those people where design for me was always something different. And it's why with Oak, there's such a heavy focus on the UX and UI side of things, because visual language can be looked at very differently from different people. Some people can see an ad for coffee and think, wow, that was nice. Other people would be like, why did they choose that? What made them why did they choose these people for the commercial? Their packaging looks interesting. They changed it. Why? Why'd they change the color? Right? And so all those things is how I used to look at stuff. I'm like, interesting. Why did they do it that way? Why are car commercials all so similar in this way? Why do jingles work so well? How does that work psychologically for people? Why is our thing? And I think that was something that kind of thought, those kind of thoughts really helped push me ahead in my career, because it was taking creative to that next step. And it was like, we don't create, at least now as a company, right? And the designers and UX who come in, it's like, we don't create to create for ourselves to make things pretty. We create for things to work. And so I think, what was the question?
How do you, as someone just starting out, thinking about all the various pathways that you could get into UX design?
Knowing that.
Yeah.
I think there's a feeling of being like, no, I know I'm into creativeness. If it doesn't call you, then it's not for you. If you're a type of person who's like, actually, I like teaching, then teaching's for you. If you're a type of person who could sit on a computer in this day and age and create things and sit and make things, then it's for you. It's hard to, I think a lot of times people are so doubtful of themselves when it's so right there in your face. If you are thinking about it, if you're like, am I interested in being a creative? And you ask yourself that often, more than likely it's because you are.
Yeah.
This is coming from someone who didn't recognize it, went to college 3 times, did everything but, and somehow always found herself sitting in creative environments and with creative people and listening to creative people. If you're listening to this podcast, more than likely you're a creative, right? You're curious about it. And so it's there.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, that's true. I actually, it's funny because I think like music is the same way. You see like families whose, brothers, cousins, aunts, uncles, parents, they're all musicians, and then you wonder, like, is there a genetic thing there? I don't know. I think there's something in our genetics as creatives that set us apart. And again, it's not to say if you don't have that gene, you can't learn to play guitar, but I think there's certainly like an innate ability that a lot of people do have that, I don't know, maybe help them get there faster or pick it up sooner or whatever it is. But yeah, I definitely think, culture, that's true. Because it could also be a nurture thing as well, right?
Yeah. Like if you're raised in a creative household, if you have a parent who likes to garden and they always show you them gardening and they get you into it, more than likely you'll have a green thumb because you know naturally how to garden. Same with cooking, with, sports sometimes, So I think creativity can definitely be something that's not the best with words, but just brought up in the household where it's like naturally it's easy to be creative. My mom is the most, I wouldn't say great creative at my point now with my history as an art director. Would I hire my mother? No. But is she creative? Yes. She loves it. And it's different than probably the traditional way of creating, but you can see it naturally if you meet her that she thinks about things differently. But yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about like this idea though, and maybe we should have started off with this. This again, we're all ADHD, ADD,
Yes.
we're like hopping over this. So I want to talk about like this idea though of, it's funny because a lot of people do what you did, and I did a very similar thing where I was told by my family, oh, get a business degree. You got to go to school, get a business degree. So I went to LSU and I couldn't get into business school because my grades were so bad. So I ended up getting into like the economics, arts and science school. And I was like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And I got lucky because I kind of like said, screw this, and I dropped out. It's very similar to you. I didn't sit in any design classes though, but I probably should have. But, so like you wake up though one day, 10 years from now, and you realize like, where am I? What am I doing? This is not the career that I should have chose. Like, why am I an accountant? You know,
Yeah.
how did I end up as like a whatever it is, insurance salesman or something? And I'm curious, thinking about that. You know, clearly I think got lucky where you figured this out probably pretty early on that like business wasn't for you and computer science wasn't for you. But I'm curious if you have any thoughts for those who may have woken up 10 years later and said, "What am I doing here?"
I
What are your thoughts there?
I genuinely think that that's the most beautiful thing. I have so many friends who have those moments. They'll reach out and they'll be like, "B, what are you in again? You know, what is UX? What is UI?" And I'll run them through it, and they'll be like, "I think I'm into it."
Hmm.
And I'm the honest friend where I'm like, "Well, let's find out," you know, because there's a chance you might just like it because you like it, but it's not your thing. But I'll say two things. One
Two things.
is first the feeling of, am I doing the right thing by jumping? Am I ruining? Did I waste my life by being an accountant for 10 years and now deciding all of a sudden I want to be creative? This is scary. This doesn't feel safe. What am I doing? And with me, I like to live a life of no regrets and only seeing the benefit of what comes from the life I've lived, right? Because it's an adventure. I am so grateful that I did drop out of college 3 times and I did take those little times to go in those 3 majors because one was business, one was computer science, and the other I don't remember what the hell I was even there for. But I know that I took those experiences.
Yeah.
If you're an accountant, then you have experience in an industry, but now you can either, once you jump into creative, you have a really big opportunity there to make that your niche when you're jumping in. Because
Hmm.
the biggest thing with creative now, yes, there's traditional. If you want to be a painter, that's different, right? Because you're going to be painting for yourself. That's like self reflection in art. But if you're getting into UX UI, it's a completely different form of art. And so when I do talk to my friends about it, like one was a teacher, I was like, that's perfect because you know so many pain points in an industry now.
Yeah.
And you can come to it as your niche, which is the best way to get into anything rather than
Yeah.
jumping in head first and just being up for everything. And so I think if there is someone who's like, hey, I've been in this industry for 10 years, I'm tired, I want to get into creative, I want to get into the UX or UI, great. Take what you have, find your pain points, take some time to think about if you had to rebrand something in that industry that you're in right now, what would you do? And then we all
Yeah.
want to make money. That's why we're doing what we're doing. How can you make money from that? And how can you make money in a creative way? We have all these things like Etsy, creative market, blah, blah, blah. Make some digital goods around that industry.
Hmm.
So that's one. Two, I forgot already.
That's okay.
But yeah,
I love it.
That's that.
No, that's still like yeah, that's really good because I'm kind of thinking like using our accountant analogy.
Yeah.
You know, you let's say you I don't know go to boot camp or you teach yourself whatever you teach yourself UX design. Imagine getting a job creating accounting software. You know, you know the ins
Exactly.
and outs of accounting. Or is it possible that you can, you know, bring some new insights that you know some UX designer who has no idea how to manage books. You know exactly what those users would need. You experienced the pain yourself.
Exactly.
You could potentially get in and start doing that. So I think that's like no regrets, right? I think that's something that's like really interesting. The other thing I think about is, you know, as a dad with 2 kids and a mortgage that's probably way more than I should have ever signed the paperwork for. You know,
Too
you
late.
sort of have to, yeah, too late. You sort of have to, you know, make a certain amount of money and you get this lifestyle creep.
Yeah.
And I think that's something to kind of think about too. It's like, obviously, like just saying, screw it, I'm going to go get another job. It's hard to do. So it's like one of those things like balancing like what you can and can't do. Like, can you do this on the side while you still have a thing, you know, still have a full-time job as an accountant or something and sort of balancing that. But I think the idea though is just like realizing that like this isn't for you and treating
Yeah.
it like a way to finance your dream and figure out like I got this sweet accounting job. They pay me a lot of
Yes.
money. Can I just like do this at nights and weekends
Yes.
and job hunt on the weekends and things like that? You know, it's just no regrets. I love that philosophy. I don't
Yeah.
know if you have anything to add to that, but
Yeah. No regrets. And also like there's so many different ways to fit into the creative realm now, right? Like if you're in
mm-hmm,
UX, you don't just have to be UX is not UI, right? So
mm-hmm,
if you want to get into, and I'm specifically saying on those topics because I feel like that's such a big thing right now with UX, UI, digital.
mm-hmm,
UI is huge. You have so many ranges in which you can do with design. Like designing elements, designing even wireframing, just wireframing. Just like, oh, I'm not a creative, but I like creative structure. UX, you can be a researcher. You can be a writer. Maybe writing is your forte. There's so many different channels and like roles that you can take in this creative space. And so it's really important not to box yourself into thinking, if I get into creative, I have to design really pretty layouts.
Yeah.
Like, you can take so many routes which can still fulfill your creative needs and still without you having to jump headfirst into like having to know how to use every different tool that's out there, you know? So that's
yeah. So I love that. So I want to talk a little bit about that too for a minute. And this is something that I think a lot of people struggle with when they first get into UX design is they sort of have this idea that like UX designers are doing maybe all of it, right? End to end. I'm a full stack designer. I'm doing the research. I'm doing this. I'm doing the wireframing. I'm doing the prototyping. I'm doing the visual design, the design system. I'm doing the validation. I'm doing the testing. I'm doing blah, 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 blah. There's like, you know, certainly people can do that, you know, but there's also a lot of opportunities for you to not do that. And the thing is that I think a lot of people, they might get a job and they might just be doing that one specific thing and didn't expect, you know, but that's what their company wants them to do. So I'm curious, like if you had to give someone advice that got a job and was stuck doing one thing, but they weren't necessarily happy with that, but they wanted to maybe explore other parts of UX design like you're talking about, what are some things like you could maybe think about to have that person try new things, to experience it, to see if it's even something that they would want to do long term?
Best way is to do it. But I will say this. My company right now, we first started when we were like, oh, we need to hire, of course, like full stack, whatever, like not full stack developers, but more on the other side where it's like, I need someone who can do UX and UI. And we've seen how, and I'm speaking directly to other founders and business owners, we notice a huge shift in like, I would say, better quality of work when we divided them. And so we focus more on product. Yeah, we have specialists. So it's like product managers, UX researchers, UX writers, UI designers specifically, right? And then we have them work together. And I think when you have one person work on something, or even two people who are doing everything, right? It closes the gap on perspectives. Like it closes that perspective. It closes the bubble. And so I will say, I think there is so much value in dividing those roles. I will say that. That's speaking directly. For everyone else, of course, there's so many resources out there for you to learn. And so use them. Get your butt on YouTube, the hell. But also, if you're working in something specific, and let's say you're in UI, if you're on a team, more than likely, in order to get there, you have to do UX. And so make sure you're paying attention to that. Talk to your peers. If you're working with peers and they're doing it, make time to talk to them. If you're in UI or if you're in UX and you're like, I want to get into the creative, just try it. Open up Figma. Go and get some resources from Creative Market online. There's free tools and things like that you can use and start breaking those things apart, right? Seeing how things are made. Download your first UI guideline or template and break down how CTAs look and how what are the variants and stuff there, because those are things that are important right now with UI trends, whatever. I don't know. I would say that's the best way. With my team, when we have anyone who's like, I think I want to get into this, we actually have someone who is in a management role, and she was like, I think I want to get into the creative side. And we sat down, I was like, are you UX or UI? And she said UX. When we went through like what those are, it's like, oh, do you like more of the strategic side, thinking through things, creating the flow charts and maps, or do you like more of the creative? She says she likes UI, right? Or UX. As we went on, and I was like throwing her into things like, you can try some stuff if you want to. She started throwing herself more into the creative work. And she ended up creating a logo that a client actually loved and used. And so it dawned on me. I'm like, some people just have no idea what they want to do until they have the opportunity to just do it. Now she's like, what was I thinking? I like UI. And I'm like, now you know. Like, it's just that easy, just by doing. Try it. Which one would you rather do? If you're sitting there and you're like, well, I like UX, I like the strategy side, then do it. If it's easy for you to get your butt into the strategic side and building out the charts and going into Miro and making maps and user flows, then that's where you're at. But if it's easier for you to jump into maybe Figma or Photoshop and create something, then take it as a really clear indicator and sign that that's what your body and mind are telling you that you enjoy doing.
Yeah, I love that advice. Yeah, I think it's like just trying a bunch of stuff and seeing what works. I think like the thing that I think a lot of people probably struggle with is like even knowing like the unknown unknowns, you know, the things that they don't know that they don't know.
Oh, I live for that. I say this every day.
Yeah, so in that case, the unknown unknowns, what are some advice there of people who like don't even know to try a thing because they don't even know that thing is a thing? What are some thoughts? How do you dive into the unknown unknowns?
I live by this because I don't know what I don't know, and the only way for me to figure out is to expose myself. And so I talk to everyone I can. I make it it's a priority. I talk to other designers. I talk to other creators. With me, it's different because what I am learning is a completely different thing. As a founder, I'm more so I need to learn sales better and things like that. And so I make sure I talk to people who align with those things. And when you just talk, people love talking about their passion. If you know a creative I'm guaranteeing anyone listening to this, if you know any creative, anyone in an industry that they're passionate about, just say, hey, I need some time to talk to you about it because I think I'm interested. And I just want to listen to you and let them cook, you know? And you'll learn so much just by that. And I think that's the biggest way is exposure. Going to events, you know that there's conferences going on. Maybe you feel like, what is it called? Imposter syndrome. But that's just a challenge that you have to like get over because the only way for you not to be an imposter is to show up. It's like, you know? And so just putting yourself in those environments until it's comfortable. But even if it's not comfortable because you're learning. It's not comfortable because you're growing into something. So yeah, I would say the best way is exposure. People, places, watching, reading.
I love that. Yeah, and you mentioned something too that I think is important to kind of call out is that as designers, we tend to love to talk about our work. Yeah. Even if we don't like to talk about ourselves necessarily, we all love to talk about our work and we all love to talk about the things we're building and the things we're doing and all that stuff. And I take advantage of that. You know, I think there's a lot of people out there that are afraid to reach out to industry folks because they're like, oh, well, they're not going to want to get back, or what if I annoy them, or blah, blah, blah. It's just like, you know, unless it's somebody who's got like 1 million followers on LinkedIn or something, maybe they don't have time for that. But like, even then, you know, I mean, who knows? Shoot your shot. You never know. Shoot your shot.
Ask them about their challenges. That's the one thing I would say. When you do, like when I'm talking to anyone and I want to learn from them or I'm wanting to learn something, I don't go into a conversation with questions that you want to know.
Yeah.
That's the biggest. I've learned that I learned nothing in those conversations because I'm getting answers for things that feel so like I could have read this. I feel like I love when I go into conversations and I talk to them about just what they're dealing with. I ask questions that are very open. What challenges are you dealing with? And then sometimes we talk through them together. Like, why? Why is that a challenge? Was it a challenge in this? You know, like talking about their life, because that's the only way you're going to unlock to know what you don't know is by just literally going on like an adventure with them in their brain, because they're going to think in ways that you could never think. And they're going to bring up questions that you wouldn't think about asking originally. I love that shit. Like, I absolutely adore when I get into a conversation with someone and any question I would have asked wouldn't have mattered, because the value I get from just letting them talk to me about what they're thinking, questions they have for themselves, makes me be like, oh my God, I would never thought to ask that. So I will say that if you do have a chance to talk to someone who's really passionate about what they're doing, make sure that the conversation is geared towards their daily, like, I don't know. Just don't be too set on like specific questions. Yeah.
Well, I love that question. Like, what are you having trouble with, or what problems are you trying to solve, or what are some things you struggle with? And that's something that's kind of interesting too, because a lot of times what I've seen is junior designers will reach out to somebody and they'll say, I need something, like I need help with this. And so, you know, in order to give accurate advice, these people need to understand the context. Otherwise, they're
Yes.
just giving you their opinion, which
Yes.
may or may not be applicable to you. And so in this case, like what you're asking is like the specific things they're struggling with, but they'll probably dig into their specific context,
Yes.
and you'll learn that context, and you could probably take away something from that versus, tell me, is my portfolio good enough, or can you review my resume, or how do I get a job? That kind of stuff. Those kind of questions are not really going to be helpful. Yeah, I love that. It's really insightful.
Give take. Yeah, it's never going into conversations, especially when you're hoping for some kind of value. It's never good to just tick. You don't learn. You get
Yeah. Something I want to talk a little bit about. I'm curious. You mentioned like exposing yourself to different things and understanding like the things that you are learning, the things that you know, learning the things that you don't know, and then through that uncovering the unknowns and the things you don't know.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, I don't know, Oak Theory, I'm not sure exactly how it started, but I imagine it started it evolved from some side project that you probably had. Is that accurate, or am I just guessing? Did that evolve from like various side gigs, side hustles that you had?
Honestly, me and Hannah started the company to kind of change, maybe, I guess you could say that. I don't know. I don't want to say no, right? Yes. And we started it mainly to change. We wanted to change what we were seeing. We wanted to create change. Right now in our industry, we are 2 women of color running a UX UI design studio. We make up 0.1% of businesses like ours. So we don't exist. Both of us knew this. We used to work together, and we were the only girls there, you know what I mean? Like only women of color there. And so it's like, what the hell? Hey, what's up? And so that's what made us click in the first place. And then I'm sure we've told this story so many times, but then we just decided to start a business together and did the whole like literal startup, like went to Chick-fil-A with a napkin and a paper and shook on it.
I love it. Yeah.
But like our main goal, I think, with Oak was, again, in UX UI, the main foundation of this is perspective. And so that's where like the challenge comes from. Exposure. That's where it comes from. I have to expose myself to things. I have to get out of my bubble. And a lot of people in this industry don't. They go in and they're like, well, this is what the numbers are telling us. And it's like, yeah, but how do you, like numbers are great, but that's how they're getting the numbers. They're getting the numbers by exposing themselves. Like going out there and getting it. And if one group of people is looking at a set of numbers, nobody questions anything, right? And so it's like, I think when we started, that was something really important to us. It's like me and Hannah has a Korean background. I'm Black, and our perspective on the world is completely different. Me and her have completely different views of the world. And so we could look at the same number, right? We can have a client and like we're selling coffee and we're looking at their demographics and their numbers. Hannah will look at those numbers completely different than I will look at those numbers. And we'll ask completely different questions about how those numbers were achieved and where they came from. And so that's why we started, because that is what's missing in this industry.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, that's you're absolutely right. And I think like that diversity of thought, diversity of background, it's so important when you've got a team of people trying to decide things, and everybody thinks the same way, and everybody comes from the same background, so they all think the same way, and then they make a decision and they were like, wow, that was wrong. And they're like, oh, I never would have thought, blah, 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 blah. It's like, because you're all freaking identical and you look exactly the same. Yeah, exactly. So I love that. I want to talk a little bit about this idea of side projects for a second. Yeah. And I made the assumption that you had a full-time job and you took on you created Oak Theory as a side gig. I'm glad that you jumped in full. It sounds like you jumped in like head first and just sort of did it. I love it.
Yeah.
But I want to talk a little bit about this idea of side projects, side hustles as an avenue for exploring those things while you still have a full-time job, maybe doing something else. I'm curious if that's something you've ever come across, or maybe you've done this in the past with other things before Oak Theory, or maybe you even have side hustles now with Oak Theory. Who knows? But I'm curious, like, talk to me a little bit about the value of side projects and the value of trying these things on the side, maybe not taking the full-on risk of starting a thing, but as a way to sort of explore.
There it is. It's a risk thing. And again, it's two different things, right? Mine is starting a company. It's completely different. especially in my industry, because if I would have made this a side gig, I would have been a competitor to the places that I was working. So I couldn't. I do technically have a side gig, but it's a side company as well. It's a game development studio because that's another passion that I have. But again, I'm a crazy person, and so I made a business out of it. But I think when I was working my career, I definitely took on side things, especially when I wanted to try something new. I think in this time, though, we're in such a beautiful with what we can do. Again, there's things like Etsy, Creative Market, Envato. There's all of these digital marketplaces that I think if you're a creative, you can not just go and seek out a little side job where you're like, oh, I just want to do this on the side and take on these projects. You can create things and see how they actually perform. And then if they perform, they're yours. They're your creative assets. Like, you own them, and you can just sell lots of them if they're working well. And if they're not working well, you can make them better. You can evolve them, right? You can iterate. Well, I would say, with my advice to anyone, if you're going to take a side gig, do something that sticks. Get your butt on Etsy if you want to make creative things. Look, do the UX part, do the research on what's working, see if you're right. If you're saying, oh, I want to get into UX, try it out. Make a flowchart template or something like that, or make something, but do the research on what is something that would sell. If I go on Etsy right now, or if I go on Creative Market and I'm looking at what people are loving, and that's your goal, is to see if you can make a product that sells, then that's perfect. And if you do it and it sells, then you were right? If you want to be creative, it's the same thing. I want to make, I don't know, wedding invitations. Go and make a wedding invitation. Put it up there, see how it does.
Yeah.
Tell your friends.
Yeah.
See how they like it. I wish I had this shit back when I was in my early career. Like, honestly, I did. I was on, like, if you ever heard of Second Life, anyone out there, that's what I did my whole college life, and I paid for my college life. Like, I used to do.
What? Really? Wow.
Yeah. That's why my mom was okay with me dropping out so many times, because I was making more money than college cost making
oh my God.
digital goods, making digital sneakers. Because I was like,
that's
I want to
awesome.
learn.
Wow. Holy crap.
Yeah. But that's how, again, that was my path, right? It's like I was a hustler. So I was like, always like, I want to make money from whatever I'm doing. And when I was in college, I used to be like, I want to learn 3D and I want to learn Photoshop. And so I also wanted to be able to game and not have to put money in the game because I was living on ramen noodles. So I remember with Second Life, I learned that you can create a store. And so I used my time gaming to create clothing and skins and things like that. And they sold, and I made a lot of money. But it was like,
that's crazy.
Still creating your creative, that's what, maybe that's why my advice the way it is. Because that's the same shit I did back then. I couldn't imagine if I had the resources I had now to say, I want to try making something. I can go and look online. I have all these tools. We have AI now where I can go and see what's popular, what's selling. I can go make I can make birthday cards, wedding invitations, baby shower, goodies, designs that are super simple, right? Just to jump in. And then I could put them online, and I can create and even if it doesn't sell, you're still doing it. And it's there. And if it does sell, even one, that dopamine kick from that will push you. So yeah.
I love that idea though of just selling stuff or trying stuff. And you hear a lot of times like put yourself out there. It could be just like, even if you're not selling stuff, posting on LinkedIn about what you're learning. It could be, part of that is networking. It doesn't always have, I don't think it always has to be like it doesn't always have to be like selling for dollars. It could be like looking for engagement or invalidating the ideas that way. Not to say go and post a bunch of shit online and that's blatantly false, right? Or whatever. Yeah. So like I think there's that aspect, of the transactions, and like seeing is it resonating with other people, whether it's buying my thing or people are following me online and I'm sharing my posts and stuff, and I don't know. Anyway,
my whole thing is, I say this all the time. I'm like, in UX UI, your whole goal is to create something that performs well, right? And whether that's the goal. And
Yeah.
so I feel like horrible because it used to be just create to create, just to create to make something beautiful. By all means,
Hmm.
traditional art, yes. UX UI,
Hmm.
if you want to get into digital and you want to do things that are going to get you a job at a business, your design, your research, whatever, has to perform well.
Hmm.
That's the goal. And
Yeah.
so we're not designing anymore like we used to, where it was like, in MySpace, we used to just edit photos and make them pretty just so we can get people will be like, oh my God, that's so cool, whatever, you know? Now we're in a time where when you want to be a designer, more than likely you're going to go to a company that's going to say, I need these designs to speak to my audience because my audience, I have a goal. And so I will always push that. If you're getting into it, yes, it's fun to make things that are nice. If you're going to even do it for content, have a goal. Content is the new oil. We all know this. So it's like, take those things kind of serious though.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's an interesting thing too, like with UX design, like thinking about like creating to be creative versus creating to sell and convert. And
I
I
know,
had
I'm
a
horrible.
really great conversation. I had a really great conversation with Cameron Ridenour not long ago where we talked about that idea. It's like, think about like converting and like marketing or sales, but like at the end of the day, it's converting on an action. It's converting on,
Mm-hmm.
follow
The feeling.
through, creating an account, finishing
Yes.
your job, like whatever it
Yes.
is. Like there's 1,000 things that you could do. It's not all like converting to sell or converting to this. So I think that's something a lot of users or a lot of like UX designers are so laser focused on users and like I want to make sure the user has the best experience. I want to solve the user's problems and all that stuff. And yes, it's true. But at the same time, like there's a business aspect of this. Like someone is
Always a
paying
goal.
you, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a business goal. Like
exactly.
you're not just designing an interface to design an interface because it's pretty or whatever. That's
How?
art.
Yes.
That's not like necessarily design. So I think that's something important for a lot of people to remember.
Yeah.
So that's
I
I don't know.
tell
Anyway, I don't have anything to
all
add to
my
that, but
clients when they come to us and they're like, well, I know that I wanted this. I want this color and I want it to look like this. And I say, why?
hmm
And they're like, because I like that style. And I'm like, but you're not your
yeah,
customer.
right, right, yeah,
Or
exactly,
you wouldn't buy this product because you know how to make this product. So why would you?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
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 So that's like something important to remember. I want to talk a little bit about your boss and how your
Okay.
boss can help you with your career pathing and thinking about. Let's say you are a UX designer. We talked about the various aspects of UX design. I'm doing one thing right now, but maybe I want to try something else. What are some ways that you can work with your boss so that your boss can help you explore other things that you might not be asked to do right now for your job?
I hate to think about this because repeat the question.
How can you work with your boss to get your boss to help you explore things beyond your current job duties if you're interested in exploring
It's such
beyond?
a hard thing right now because of the position I'm in. Because I try to be a responsible boss every day for my team. But damn, being here, you realize how fucking hard that shit. But I know what I used to want, and I've had great bosses in the past who were always super supportive. And I think they were supportive because, A, speaking directly to bosses, with my past leaders and bosses, I think one of the biggest things that I recognize that they did that I bring into now my role is paying attention to my weak spots and seeing
Mm,
where I struggle and pushing me in that direction, like challenging me with those. Had I think one thing that a lot of us miss out on because we can be so wrapped up in the creative space is that we miss out on on presenting it. We forget that
mm,
that's something we have to learn how to speak about our work and in a way that makes sense and in a way that can, I don't want to say persuade the audience who's listening, but sell it, right? And
mm,
so I remember I had director, Tom, amazing, amazing creative director. And he used to challenge me. He'd be like, you know what? I have a class that I'm teaching. Why don't you come in and present? And I'd be like,
mm.
you? But after every one of those classes, I would leave a little better.
Mm,
And another boss, he used to see like, okay, I need help with structure. Like he would notice those things. And so I would be on projects that I feel like were more structured or even the opposite way of putting me on projects that I would do really well in just to make sure my
mhm,
confidence stayed there. And so he would always put me in those situations. I feel like it's the balance, honestly. But the biggest way that I grew was by being put in situations that challenged me. I do that for my team now. If you see as an individual you are not doing well in something, or you're like, hey, I'm good in UX and I can create, but I really have a hard time being organized, speak about it to your leadership and see if there's ways that they can put you in situations that force you to do it or keep you accountable for it. I think that works.
I love that. So let me ask you this. As a boss now, what are things that you wish your team did so that you could help them that maybe they're not doing today? Like maybe they're asking the wrong way, or maybe they're not asking at all. But what are some ways that, you would love to see as an individual contributor going to your boss? What is the best way to get what you want out of that conversation as it relates to, trying new things, exploring new career options, things like that?
Definitely speaking up. I feel like a lot of times
it starts with that. You can do that first.
It's hard, and I get it, and I have to pull teeth sometimes to get I think a lot of creatives are scared to admit this is hard, or scared to admit this is a challenge, or I don't know. And so I do wish my team, we're working on it. I've created systems and structures where I don't leave room anymore for them not to tell. But it was a problem with just coming to me and speaking up. Stop being afraid. All of us, if you have a boss who used to be who is a creative or a creative director, any kind of leader, they were you once. Like, they were there. And the only way that they're them now is by probably asking questions, having humbling moments, having to learn something that they didn't know. And so I think it's really important to just speak up. If you have a challenge on something, don't be afraid to tell somebody. What else? Well, that one's tough. I think ego can play a huge part in how we do our work, but that's another problem for another day.
Is it? I don't know. I think that actually plays a large role in this, though. I think, for me at least, ego can keep you where you are. Yeah. Because you're too proud to move. Like, oh, I've invested all this time and money. I'm not changing careers, or I'm not changing this thing. Yeah. Or it could be like, I'm too proud to ask for help, or, so I don't know. I actually think it does play a role in this. If you have some insight into ego, share it. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
I am a strong advocate of leaving your ego at the door.
Yeah.
And I will admit, it has changed my life. I can admit when I have it, because we all do. But dropping it is life-changing, but it takes a lot to do it. But I think a lot of people with ego, it is the biggest blocker. Whether it is exactly the things that you mentioned, being like, I've done all this, I'm here, this, I don't want to go, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, I don't want to admit that maybe this is a problem for me, I don't want to accept advice, or I don't want to say criticism, because not criticism, but critiquing from anyone,
Yeah.
So I think ego plays a huge factor in the decisions that we make.
Yeah. Well, what are some, if you've experienced, how did you overcome that? You mentioned that you've struggled with this. What are some ways that you could help, some advice you might have for those who might be struggling with it, to leave that ego at the door, like you said?
I talk to my friends about this, and they're like, shut the hell up. It's not that easy. But literally, I do it by recognizing it, acknowledging it, and then telling it to leave. And I hate it. I feel like any other way, there's so many other ways, everyone's different, but I think with me, it's recognizing it and being in situations, being open with friends, and I'm very quick to be like, that was my ego talking. In conversations. And that's not something you can do in every situation. That can backfire on you in corporate environments. But recognizing it is the first step. And we all know it. We just don't want to admit it. And so maybe not saying it outwardly, but definitely knowing and being like, oh, that's where that's coming from. And in the moment, you don't have to technically fix anything, right? You don't have to, in that moment, be like, I'm going to drop it right now. If you can, that's great. But if you don't, you should definitely go back to it later and figure out where these things stem from. And I talk to my business partner about this a lot. I force her into these conversations because I think one of the biggest things with ego is not all of our egos, I think, hold like a different color because they come from a specific place. And so some people, it can come from insecurities in a specific area. Some people, it can come from trauma, you know? And so there's a big thing on fixing that. And that's why I said this is a whole other conversation, because in careers, it's not just a creative thing. It's across the board with everyone. But I think with our egos in this space, it can vary. I have a designer. He knows this. We talk about it all the time. He has an ego. He dislikes if someone doesn't like his work.
Right.
And we have moments where it's like, well, are you not taking this because you genuinely think that what you did in this situation is right? Like if we have a project and it's like, hey, the way this layout looks isn't going to work. The order of it, we have to change it. And he'll be like, no, this works. I like it. I think it works. And so we have to say, okay, do you think it works? And if we run it through testing, is there a chance it won't? Can you say with 99% accuracy that you thought through every situation, and that when we present it to the client, this page layout is going to tell the story that's going to resonate with their audience the most? Or do you just like it because visually it looks really good with the way it's laid out? And a lot of times we'll come to the fact that he's like, no, okay, you're right. And it's like, we have to listen to our audience. And that's where ego comes in. That's where recognizing it comes in, and getting to a healthy place where we can acknowledge it, figure it out, kick it out, and be like, let's create together for the bigger purpose. But yeah.
No, that's a good answer. Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with, when I think about this, is just emotional intelligence in a way. And, understanding that, like, this idea that, like, I'm not designing for myself, I'm designing for other people, I'm not my user, that kind of stuff. I think that's just like leaving that at the door for
humbling.
sure it's very humbling. And I think it's hard for a lot of designers, especially like junior designers who just assume like, hey, I'm the designer. Why wouldn't you listen to me? That's just not how life works. It's not how business works.
That's literally what it was. It was a junior designer. Now he's no longer a junior designer, because we went through a whole year of having that, where he was like, he's so used to seeing what works and what's beautiful. And nothing takes away from things being beautiful. Nothing takes away from the fact that he has a unique style that is out of this world. I think he is the most amazing designer. From where he was before to where he is now, after we've worked through that ego, seeing his work and him seeing how it performs differently than like when he used to make beautiful shit and people would like it, but it wasn't the people who needed to like it. And so it wouldn't perform well.
Right.
To now, he's able to make beautiful work and be proud of it because it's resonating with the people who are supposed to like it, and the clients love him. You can see how he's like, oh my God, it's like a wake up call. It's like, so.
I love that. Yeah, it's something like, I think it's just like, maybe that comes with wisdom over time. Over time, you realize like, this is, it isn't working, or it is, and being ready to change it, which again, I think goes back to ego, like realizing that like, this isn't working. Whatever I thought was good is not actually good. And here's, objectively why, versus I like it or I don't, and leaving that ego at the door. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
All right. So Veronica, we've had you for a little while now, and I like to have my guests answer a few questions to help all our listeners get to know all of our guests a little bit better. Before we do that, any closing thoughts as it relates to this idea of being stuck in your career and wanting to move and explore new things? Any closing thoughts?
Do it. Life is short. Just do it. Just try it. You don't have to quit your career. We talked about it, so many opportunities out there to test the waters and see how you feel about it. But if you don't do it, you'll never know. And so, like, why? Life is so fucking short. Just try something. I don't know. That's my best piece of advice.
Yeah, you're right. Just try it. All right, cool. So we've got some questions I like to ask all of my guests to help our listeners get to know our guests a little bit better. These aren't too deep, nothing too crazy, just the first thing that comes to your head, and then we'll go from there. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. First up, what is your favorite non-design?
My favorite non-design book? I don't know. Saga. God, I like Saga, but I like it because I like the art in it. But if you like
Mm.
visual, it's not a comic per se, but it is a comic, but it's called Saga. It's beautiful, it's funny, it's a little risque. So good.
Saga. It's
Yeah,
like a
Saga.
graphic novel kind
It's
of
a graphic
thing, sort
novel
of?
and it's
Okay.
so
I've never
good.
heard of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
All right. I have to check it out. All right. A little risque, huh? Nothing wrong with that.
It
All
is
right. What
so
is your,
risque.
watch out. All right. What is your favorite non-design podcast?
I think there's non-design. This is so funny. I feel like I'm gonna get judged heavily. There's one I
Don't judge
think
me.
called Guys I Used to Fuck.
Okay.
I think that's what it's called, but it's not about that. It's just like girls talking, so that one's good.
Okay.
Wait,
You
let
know
me
what?
see. Don't send that one. I don't need people knowing I listen to that. Hold on. Let me look at something more that if
I mean, I'm not judging.
somebody I
ain't
talk
judging.
to is like,
The listeners might judge. I'm not judging.
I know they might judge. How can I see on here what I'm like the most? I'm a gamer, by the way.
Uh-huh.
I like to read, but I have ADHD, so I have a shit ton of books around my home and they're beautifully placed. But I probably read through like probably 5 chapters and I'm done. I play Call of Duty every single day. Like I just
Watch
don't
out.
do this shit. Okay, yeah, I'll say Archetypes with Meghan Markle was great.
Archetypes with Meghan Markle.
There you go.
Oh, that's Princess Is that Princess Meghan?
That is. I love her.
She's yeah, that's right. I've never heard of that. What is that podcast about?
A little bit of everything. She just interviews different people and talks about like things that are going on.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah.
No,
It's the only one I was able to listen to all the episodes of. And this one, but it's about creative, so.
This is of course this one's your favorite.
This is my favorite, hands down.
Non-design.
Wow.
There you go. All right. What is your favorite meal? This could be something you've cooked, something you've eaten at a restaurant, something your grandma used to cook. Favorite meal.
I am an advocate of school or girl dinners, so I love popcorners.
Popcorners. What is that?
I can eat popcorners for dinner. They're bags of chips, and they're just so addicting. But if I had like a go-to dinner that is like, I'd probably say some tacos, chicken tacos, sour
Chicken
cream.
tacos. Now, is it like the street tacos with like onion and cilantro, or is it like American tacos with like the cheese and lettuce and all that?
No, street tacos. 100%.
Street taco. There you go. That's the way to do it. I love it. All right. I'm with you on that one. Popcorn. I've never heard of popcorners.
Popcorns are the bomb. Yeah.
All right. I have to go look it up. I have to go get some. All right. What is your favorite vacation spot?
Bali.
Bali. Ooh, that's fancy.
I love Bali. Yeah,
I've never
Bali
been.
or Thailand. Thailand's great. Bangkok is it can be a great city.
Yeah. I've never been.
Beautiful.
I've never been to East Asia before. I would love to go at some point. Bali, I just imagine like yoga retreats, a lot of yoga happening, I assume, or
yes, maybe, but also just the culture there is beautiful and peaceful. The people there are so kind, so beautiful. Everything there, the landscapes, doing the waterfalls. There, my goal though, I want to go to Zanzibar.
Zanzibar.
So bad.
Where's that?
So bad.
Where's that?
Tanzania.
Okay.
So Africa.
I mean, I know like Zanzibar. I know like of the name, but I couldn't place it on a map.
Yeah.
Is it? It's like an old, like there's ruins and stuff there from right? Is that? Am I thinking of a different place? Like
you
older,
might be thinking of
like,
a different place. Definitely has some history.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to Google that on your own.
Okay.
Definitely has some history that I think would emotionally take me out. But it's calling me. Like everyone I know who goes there is like it's the most beautiful place they've ever seen in their life. So.
Okay, right on.
Yeah.
I have to Google. I guess I don't really know much about it. All right, what is your favorite design tool that is not Figma?
So I can't say Figma.
Non-Figma.
I know. Non-Figma. Damn, Figma's taking the cake.
Yeah.
But I do love Sybil for last minute prototyping. Still, I think a handy tool. Like it's old school a little bit compared to what we have now because we have Figma. But my God, if I can put together a quick prototype in there.
I've never heard of it.
Principal. I love Adobe. I think we all love Adobe. You know, so the suite is great. It's a good tool. I can't wait to see where it goes and how it competes with Figma to make things as easy as Figma is. I'm hoping they do. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you. I got this is like a pro tip for anybody listening. If you can wait until Black Friday, I got a 50% off young subscription of the Creative Suite. Black Friday. Black Friday.
No
deal.
way.
Yeah.
Black Friday's
Half
so
off.
far.
I know. Well, that's
Put
you
it on
got a
your
year
calendars,
subscription now.
people.
Yeah, every year, every year I'm gonna just create a new Google account
That is dope because their
and I'm gonna
prices
get a
go
new
up.
50%. Yeah. Oh my
No,
god, it's so
that's
expensive.
really dope.
Yeah, and
Good for
I'm not like
you.
a student anymore, unfortunately, so I can't.
I'll be
I
getting
can't get
it.
the student discount. Yeah, there you go.
I'll be telling my
So
team.
check that out. All right, so Veronica, this was awesome. Really excited to chat with you today. Before we
Wait,
get
you
out
don't
of here,
answer your own questions?
no, I don't know. This is nobody's here to listen to me.
The hell is your favorite food?
My favorite food. Shit, dude. You know what? I might go with tacos too, to be honest.
So when?
Here's the thing.
What's your favorite tool?
My favorite tool that's not Figma, Illustrator, without doubt.
Interesting. Okay.
I like Illustrator a lot. I use that for like designs and stuff I use Figma mostly now because it's so much faster than like waiting. By the time Illustrator opens, I can already have exported a file.
No, that's what I'm saying. And you could still do vector shit in Figma. Like it's like.
And I think like working with vectors is probably better. The way you can like merge shapes and stuff. It's so much more intuitive than it is in Illustrator. Illustrator's like super. It took me a while to figure out how to use the Pathfinder tool in Illustrator. Now that I know how to use it, it's like really easy. But yeah, I don't know. Illustrator is probably my jam. That's probably my one.
And for anyone who has a tablet, if you like sketching and taking notes, I know there's all these other apps, but Moleskin's, what is it called? Hold on. Moleskin has an app that I'm obsessed with right now. I've been obsessed with for the past, not right now, 3-4 years. And I'm a diehard fan of their suite. They have and it's called, hold on, sorry, Flow. And it's you can sketch, draw, whatever. If you're in a creative space, whether you're in UX UI, whether you're in architecture, whether you're in product design, whatever, I have found this tool, this app, incredible.
Let's check it out. So and it uses the Apple Pen, I assume.
It does, and the way it's the feeling of it though.
Mm-hmm.
Like you feel like you're drawing, and I love using it when I have to sketch out flows, and when I have to make, if I have to do wireframes and things like that, and all the way down to I'm like creative nerd, so I like to do even blueprints, and it just makes my life so easy. If you have a tablet and you like taking notes, and it's for sketching and things like that, because we all have good notes, Flow is where you go.
Flow is where you go. It's good. Did they pay you to write that?
I know
slogan,
they should. Honestly, they should. If they did, I would be like, don't even worry about it.
You can take it for free. Just give me
just
don't
give
charge
me
me
free. Just don't charge me for the app. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
It's amazing.
All right. So, before we get out of here, tell everybody where they could find you and Oak Theory and all that stuff.
Okay, awesome.
And give yourself a little plug.
So, you can find us online at www.oaktheory.co. You can follow us on all of our socials. It's oaktheory.co. Follow us, say hello. We're always willing to talk if you want to talk to someone about whether or not you should get into it. I try my best to make time for people in this industry, so by all means do reach out, like say what's up. But cheers.
All right,
and follow me on LinkedIn.
And, are
Veronica
you on LinkedIn?
Shelton.
Do you like post on LinkedIn?
Yeah, there
you go. All right, do you like post on LinkedIn and stuff?
I used to. I'm getting back into it now. Hannah posts more than me because she's in that side, but follow me on LinkedIn. Veronica Shelton.
Right on.
Yeah,
we're all I'm all about LinkedIn over here, so that's what